I'm Adria Breyer, a member of the Commonwealth Club, the chair of today's program, and a member of the Health and Medicine Member-Led Forum. The Commonwealth Club is the oldest public forum in the United States. The mission is to bring forward total information on various topics from the top people in their fields, unbiased information, so our members and the public gets to hear both sides and they can make their own decisions from that information. That was the mission at the beginning, and that remains the mission. Let's talk about today's society. It's a bit complicated. People are meeting in person, they're not meeting in person. How do you create community and continue community through the Commonwealth Club? Here's a suggestion. Give a membership, have everybody watch the program no matter where they are in the world, because the Commonwealth Club is huge international reach, and then have a conversation on Zoom afterwards where you all have whatever your beverages of choice and just talk about it. Give Commonwealth Club for any reason, as a birthday gift, a wedding gift, a shower gift, because it's an entire year for approximately $100 of extraordinary programming and learning in an hour on topics that you might not otherwise be covering. So we invite you to join all of our programs. We invite you to become members. And I have to say, with this particular program with Dr. V, it's going to be up online in about a week. And after you hear this information, you will have your socks knocked off. This is empowering. Dr. V has spoken to huge conferences. She's well known internationally. I can speak from personal experience as somebody who's conquered multiple cancers. I did not have Dr. V during those journeys. I did not have her information. And what she's going to give people today is going to change their lives. So please come back in a week, find the link, send it to everybody you know, and ask them to send it to everybody they know. Because in that 1 hour, they will be empowered. And when it comes to cancer, you can't just deal with cancer when it's active. You have to be proactive. And Dr. V's approach and her program will tell everybody, men and women alike, how to deal with staying healthy with cancer and get healthy again with cancer. Dr. V's credentials are huge. I'm not going to take up our time because it's taken me a year to get her here, and I don't want to take away from her information. You can look at her bio on the website. You can, on our website, you can look at her website and see extensively everything that she's listed. And when you sign up for the free information she's going to send you, you will then be on the list to receive all her educational materials. So today is an incredible gift. It is with pleasure that I get to introduce you to Dr. V.
Thank you so much, Adria. Thank you for having me on the Commonwealth Club. I know you've worked very hard to get me here, and I appreciate your time and patience with this whole process. So I guess we'll just dive right in. I'll share my screen and we'll get started. So I have a PowerPoint. All right. So the topic today is to never fear breast cancer again. And when we think about it, cancer, when it comes down to it, is just a 6-letter word. However, with the diagnosis of cancer comes a life-changing moment for people who've been diagnosed with cancer or their family members. Life is never the same. And unfortunately, when we think of cancer, this is often the image that comes to mind. Somebody who's really sick, losing their hair, harsh treatments, and sometimes eventual death. But I'm here to change that paradigm and to really help people to understand. And today we're talking specifically about breast cancer, but this applies to any type of dis-ease, that you really don't need to fear cancer, because once you understand what cancer is and what cancer is not, then there's no need for fear. Once you get that diagnosis, there's so many unknowns and so many uncertainties, right? There's so much information on the internet. There's Dr. Google that people go to, and people just don't know what is real and what is, false information. But when it comes to healing your body, it's very important that you understand that it all begins with a change in your mindset and understanding that Cancer is just the tip of the iceberg, and what has allowed the cancer to develop and show up in your life can be undone by changing your lifestyle and everything else that we'll get into. Now, here's a typical example of somebody who worked with us, who is, somebody who worked hard and actually had a huge shift in her mindset. She was a stage 4. This is Lisa from North Carolina, stage 4 with metastasis, the spread of cancer to the bones. And she was basically given no hope. And so she started digging for information. And then when she found our information, she started applying the principles of healing. And as of a few months ago, when she shared this story with us, there was improvement in all her tests. Her scans with the Mets to the bone were no longer there, so her bones had healed. And obviously, Lisa has a new hope on life. My particular journey is based on hope as well. I'm a chiropractor by profession, and 23 years into my practice, I was in the shower. I was doing a breast self-exam, and bam, felt that lump that changed the course of my life forever. And what you're looking at here is a thermogram. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with thermography, thermography is technology that takes an image of the infrared heat being emitted from the body, and the software translates it into an image. So where you see a lot of redness, this can be inflammation, it can be vascularity or blood flow, as you see here. This is the tumor in my left breast. This was a lot of blood flow feeding the tumor. Now, what a shock for me, because I was the wellness warrior. I was Dr. V. I was helping all these people get well. And yet here I was facing a lump in my left breast. So I had to go to the drawing board and ask myself, what has allowed the cancer to develop in my body? I thought I was doing everything right. I ate organic before organic was in style. I breastfed my children, had home births, I exercised, I was under chiropractic care, supplementation, you name it, I was doing it. Yet I was faced with breast cancer. So a lot of soul searching, a lot of research. And as I was going through my healing journey in 2004 through 2006, there was some big aha moments. And one of them was I was really frustrated at times. There was a little bit of fear sometimes, confused at times, just like any other woman. And I felt like I needed a process. I was just jumping from one place to the other. So I really felt like I needed something that I could check off all the boxes. And that's when I created the system called the 7 Essentials System. It's a basic lifestyle pattern. If you follow it, you never have to fear dis-ease again. And we'll be discussing each of these in very little detail. I mean, normally it takes me 3-4 days at our retreats to be able to discuss and go in depth into all of these, but we'll be talking about each of these essentials in just a minute. So as I created these 7 essentials, it gave me a guideline where I could check off the boxes and know that I was covering all the bases when it came to healing and getting well. I eventually put that information in a book called Heal Breast Cancer Naturally. It became a #1 bestseller in 10 categories and in 5 countries. And never in my wildest dreams did I ever see myself with a team of people. We have shared this message of hope in over 57 countries. We've supported women all over the globe. And it's been such a blessing and an honor to be able to do that, to be able to use my healing journey to support women. But something very interesting happened to me. So 3 years into my being known as the breast cancer conqueror, cancer came knocking at my door again. So this is another thermogram in 2015 this time. Not quite as much inflammation and redness, but you can still see the vascularity, and that's where the tumor was on this time. So what had I missed, right? I was the breast cancer conqueror. I was teaching women how to reverse and heal cancer, and yet here I was facing cancer for a second time. So this was very difficult for me. It was a real slap in the face. It was a big wake-up call, but my gut told me And I knew why I allowed cancer to show up again. I created the perfect storm for cancer to show up because I wasn't sleeping properly. I was overstressed, overworked. I was coaching women personally from sun up to sundown. And I was really not paying attention to my needs and my health. So the good news is I dug in again into the 7 essential system, and I really dug deeper into each one of those essentials and made more changes in my life. And my biggest takeaway 3 years later, by 2018, I realized that I needed to take time to nurture this little girl inside of me, to set proper boundaries, to take time to balance my hormones, to learn how to sleep again, to really de-stress my life, and to really take the time to allow my body to heal. So the good news is, here we are in 2021. This is a thermogram of my upper chest, and you can see there's still a little bit of redness in the armpit. That's lymphatic congestion, but everything is cool and green, and all my scans, all my blood work, everything looks good. So I've never been happier and healthier since. Now, the important thing when it comes to healing breast cancer is, number one, you have to get clarity. You have to understand what cancer is and what cancer is not. And once you understand that, then you can build confidence in your body's ability to heal. And once you have that confidence, then you can be committed to whatever program you choose. I mean, there are many ways to heal the body. And what I'm talking about today is just one of many. I always encourage women, when they go through healing journeys, to get some sort of coaching. When I went through my healing journeys, I had medical doctors, I had naturopaths, I had doctors of osteopathy, I had emotional coaches, EFT coaches. I surrounded myself with a healing team that could really guide me in all aspects of my healing. And then lastly is community. Community is everything, because when we have community, we don't feel like the Lone Ranger, and we can move forward with our BFFs, right? Our breast friends. Now, here's another example of a healing journey. This is Gwen, and she was a stage 3 breast cancer with 9 out of 10 lymph nodes being involved. She worked with our system. She read my book, and she had some major lifestyle changes. And now she is moving forward with lots of love. And her mascot, our mascot, her new little puppy, is called Hope. So let's understand what cancer is and what cancer is not. So first of all, cancer is simply the tip of the iceberg. It's the symptom, it's not the cause. You can cut out the tumor, but you still have to get to the root cause of what allowed the cancer to develop. Cancer is a metabolic disease. It starts off as a foundation with too much sugar in the body, insulin resistance, and that eventually leads to inflammation. Cancer is also a mitochondrial disease. We know that healthy mitochondria play a major role in keeping our healthy cells healthy. However, when we lack oxygen, when we stay stressed, when we don't eat the right foods, then these mitochondria will become weak and die, and can eventually create cancer cells. Now, cancer is an immune disease, and I love this quote by Dr. Michael Greenow. If the immune system weakens too much, that's when cancer can establish itself, because we know we produce cancer cells every day. And if our immune system is too weak and it's not paying attention because it's too busy trying to take care of all this other junk that's in our body, then cancer has an opportunity to show up. Now, cancer is rarely a genetic disease. I say not in the slide. It's rarely a genetic disease. 5 to 10% at most can be attributed to genetics. That being said, we know with the study of epigenetics and nutrigenomics, we know that we have a large measure of control of how our genes are expressed. I know Dr. Bruce Lipton has been on the Commonwealth Club, and he speaks about It's not the gene itself, but it's the environment that we put that gene in. And I've known many women with BRCA gene positive, for example, who successfully reversed and healed breast cancer and are doing very well today. So let's dive into each of the essentials. So essential number one is to let food be your medicine. And I'm sure your audience is very aware that food is extremely important. And understanding that, first of all, when it comes to cancer, the prime cause of cancer is replacement of respiration of oxygen in healthy cells by fermentation of sugar. This is Dr. Otto Warburg back in the early 1900s. We know that cancer cells love sugar. They also love glutamine, but we won't get into that because of time. But let's focus on sugar. How do we know that cancer cells get fed first when it comes to sugar? Well, if you know anybody who's had a PET scan, so they get injected with radioactive glucose. They sit for 30 minutes, then they run through the scan. And what lights up first? The cancer cells, because cancer cells have more insulin receptor sites on their cells than do healthy cells. And so they gobble up the sugar first, and that's how cancer cells show up on a PET scan. And there's been a lot of research showing that insulin resistance is the insulin resistance can lead to a high probability of breast cancer, because you get increased inflammation, you get higher insulin growth factors, higher reactive oxygen species levels, and of course, DNA damage, which can eventually trigger cancer. So what can you do about that insulin resistance? Fasting and intermittent fasting is extremely important. It's been shown that it can improve the insulin sensitivity, decrease inflammation, improves your immune system, corrects your appetite, because we know in America we eat way too much food compared to other European countries. And it also stimulates autophagy, which is basically recycling of unhealthy and dead cells. Studies have shown that women who fast 48 hours, do a complete fast for 48 hours before getting chemotherapy treatments, actually fare much better and have a much higher tumor load die-off than those who don't. Now there's a list of foods, and again, I'm not going to go through them, but I'm just highlighting a few things here. Cruciferous vegetables are really your breast friends, and why is that? Because cruciferous vegetables, and specifically the sprouts of cruciferous vegetables like broccoli sprouts, have something called sulforaphane. It's a nutrient that can turn on hundreds of protective genes and turn off cancer-promoting genes. And they also help optimize that phase 2 liver detoxification, where those aggressive estrogens can be broken down into healthy metabolites. When it comes to foods, of course, organic is so important. Eat as much organic food as you can. Vegetables, extremely important. Seeds, nuts, healthy oils, all those things are important. If you choose to eat protein, meat, make sure that it's hormone-free, antibiotic-free, 100% grass-fed and humanely treated, and that they've gotten to play in the sunshine. Next topic is essential number 2, where we talk about reducing your toxic exposure. Now, we can't live in a bubble. We know we live in a very toxic world, no matter how clean we try to be. But when it comes to breast cancer, there's specific things that you want to be aware of. These hormone disrupting chemicals will appear in everyday products. So dry cleaning fluids, plastics, the phthalates, BPAs, chlorinated and brominated fire retardants that are in our clothing, in our bedding, in our, our cars, or even our electronics. Those things are there. So we want to be able to really be aware of those kinds of chemicals. Anything you put on your skin is going to be absorbed directly into your body. And there's something called xenometallogens, or chemical metallogens, that will stimulate breast density and breast cancer risk. So things like aluminum, nickel, cadmium, mercury. Mercury is a metalloestrogen. It mimics and stimulates estrogen in the body. So those kinds of chemicals. Environmental pesticides and herbicides, those are also what we call not metallogens, but hormones. You know, they will stimulate hormones in the body. This is something that we are exposed to 24/7. EMFs may be the most devastating health threat in our modern world. It's a toxic pollutant that we don't necessarily feel, we don't see it, we don't taste it, but it affects us 24/7. And even the World Health Organization has classified EMFs as a class 2B carcinogen, and that's the same category as lead and DDT. Now, we've been around 2G, 4G, and now there's 5G. And the most recent research and updates on 5G is that it will increase sympathetic nerve system activity. So people will have a hard time sleeping and they'll feel more anxious. They'll be in that sympathetic overdrive mode. They've seen neuropsychiatric effects, cardiac effects, increased cancer risk, irreversible fertility problems. And most recently, I read about skin and eye problems as a result as well. Now, the sad news is, they're getting ready to blanket our planet with 40,000 satellites that will beam down 5G onto this planet. So the good news is there are ways for you to become aware and to protect yourself. There's more and more technology now that helps to neutralize the biological effects of this non-ionizing radiation. When it comes to breast cancer specifically, we know that it shuts off the production of melatonin. And melatonin is a cytotoxic hormone. It literally kills breast cancer cells and breast cancer stem cells. And so be very aware that, the EMFs that you're surrounded by can affect your melatonin production, which is why we highly recommend, and other doctors recommend as well, fairly high dosing of melatonin to help offset the effects of the EMFs. So be proactive. There's little things that you can do. Turn your Wi-Fi off at night. You don't need Wi-Fi in the evening. Hardwire your router instead of always being on Wi-Fi. Don't put your electronics on your body. Make sure that they're away from your body. And there's technology that you can get now, all different kinds of companies where you can put little guards on your cell phones to help neutralize the biological effects. Pendants, there's technology you can put in your home. So, really look into these things, because this problem with EMFs and 5G is really going to create some serious health issues for a lot of people. The Bioinitiative Report is an independent organization of scientists from all over the world, and they've amassed thousands of research studies which back up the effects of EMFs and the effect on human bodies and health. Next, we need to look at household toxins. Now, when it comes to breast cancer, there's over 200 chemicals in a typical household that can be associated with breast cancer. And so there's no excuse anymore. You can go to your local grocery store and buy cleaning products that are safe and biodegradable and not harmful to the environment. So slowly get rid of all those harsh cleaning agents you may have in your home. And then always have your house checked for mold, because over 40% of homes and office buildings are contaminated with mold. And we know that the spores from the mold are very toxic and very immunosuppressive. And I've seen many instances, women suffering with breast cancer, where they had to do mold remediation in their home before they started getting better. And then remember, whatever you put on your skin, this is just one example of shaving cream. I mean, look at all the chemicals that are in there, and many of them are carcinogenic. They cause cancer. And so why use shaving cream when you can just use soap and water? So be very conscious of what you put on your skin, because that's absorbed directly into your body. Something as simple as toothpaste. If you use commercial traditional toothpaste, look at the back of the tube. It says, call the poison control center if swallowed. Now that should tell you something, right? The chemicals that are in there, once they are in your mouth, they are being absorbed through the mucous membranes, much like nitroglycerin. When somebody's having a heart attack, right? They put under their tongue, bam, the heart responds. Same thing. Anything you put in your mouth is being absorbed directly into your bloodstream. So a simple little thing, change your toothpaste, and there's plenty of them at your local supermarket that are non-toxic. And then our body itself produces many toxins, and that's something for you to be aware of. Just the waste byproducts that are produced from just eating and breathing and being alive. So it's important to support liver detoxification and cleaning out the colon and doing some flushes for your gallbladder and flushing out the kidneys. These are all things that you can do to support getting rid of in your body so they don't continue to accumulate. And then what about parasites? This was a book I read decades ago by Anne Louise Gittleman. Guess what came to dinner? When we think of the advent of international travel, think of your food being picked in South America, all the hands that it goes through by the time it gets to your dinner table. Imagine all the possibilities that are there. And there's always a connection with a weakened immune system and a parasitic infection. So read the book. It's a great, great introduction to really help you to understand how serious of a problem parasites are in this country. And whenever there's cancer, there is always chronic infections in the background. These are things like candida or viruses or bacteria or parasites that keep your immune system so preoccupied that your immune system is fatigued and it doesn't have the opportunity and the strength to focus on really getting rid of those cancer cells that we may be developing every day. So support your body in cleansing and detoxing. There's things that you can do like coffee enemas. Coffee enemas will increase that glutathione production. Glutathione is your cell's natural detoxifying agent. Use, a light roasted coffee, and there's lots of information on our website or other websites where you can learn about the benefits of coffee enemas and how to do them. Sweat, 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 right? Lymphatic sweating is so important. There's far and near infrared saunas. It's been shown that, and I've seen evidences myself on patients and how their heavy metals will decrease after so many months when they do a lot of sweating in saunas, or they can also use things like the Biomat. Also has infrared energy, and the tourmaline crystals with the negative ions can really help promote that detoxification process. And here's another great way to stimulate lymphatic drainage. This is an instrument called XP2 by Rightway Enterprises. And what you're looking at here are glass tubes that have different frequencies in them. And when the glass tubes are rubbed against the skin where there's no lymphatic congestion, it moves very smoothly. But when you get into the armpit and around the breast or the liver where there's congestion, it gets very sticky. And so the technician, works on really clearing that lymphatic congestion, because there's some unhealthy proteins that can accumulate in the lymphatic system. So another great way to cleanse the body and move the junk out of your system. Now, essential number 3 is to balance your energy. We are 1 billionth physical matter, and the rest is all energy. Now, let that sink in for just a second. 1 billionth physical matter, and the rest is all energy. So how do we keep that energy balanced? Well, there's many ways. One of them is chiropractic. Your nerve system commands and controls every single organ and cell in your body. And so if your spine is properly aligned, the nerve system will be balanced, and the brain will be sending all the information it's trying to get down to your organs and down to your cells. Balancing your heart energy And this was a big learning experience for me during my second healing journey. I learned about the research that HeartMath Institute had been doing for decades on the heart. The heart is really a mini brain. Your heart speaks to your brain more than your brain speaks to your heart. That's very, very powerful when you think about it. We think that, we used to think that the brain commanded and controlled everything, that it was the chief computer. Now we know different. The heart is actually a mini brain, and the heart field is 5,000 times stronger than the brain's field. And as they dug into the research, they noticed something called heart rate variability. We used to think that the heart would just beat like thump, a thump, a thump, a thump. But the more that they dug into it, they recognized that there was a variability or changes in that rhythm, very subtle, that affected our thoughts, our emotions, and our nerve system. And so they realized if they could control the heart coherence and get the heart to really relax and get into that parasympathetic relaxation mode, then the rest of the body and the mind responded. And so here you see the Inner Balance app. This is an app that they've created, and this is one of my scans from years ago. And the goal is to get into high coherence, where you know that if you're meditating and you're trying to calm down, that your body is actually responding. So very, very interesting little tool that can help you to get into that relaxation response and balance your energy. Another way to balance your energy is through acupuncture and the affecting all the chi flow or the energy flow through the meridians that we have going through every single organ in our body. There are other energy tools that you can look at to help balance the energy system of your body. So this is NES, Health System. This is Zyto. This is Healy. And I love this quote by Nikola Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Energy medicine is the medicine of the future. We've worked with chemistry for hundreds of years, probably longer than that, in modern medicine specifically. But homeopathy was a sneak peek of energy medicine. And now we're getting more and more tools and technology that help us to affect the body on an energetic level, because that is where life begins, and that is where healing begins as well. Now, when it comes to balancing our energy, hormones are extremely important, right? We all know that when our hormones are not balanced, we don't feel balanced, right? We all know that. We've experienced that. And so it's very important for us to become aware of what we call xenoestrogens or chemical estrogens. So everything from the heavy metals that we talked about in antiperspirants, perfumes and lotions that you may put on your skin, plastics, metals in your mouth, environmental pollutants, all these things are chemical estrogens. Now, it's important for you to understand that when it comes to breast cancer, your hormones do not cause cancer. Now, that's a bold statement because conventional treatments with breast cancer focus on the fact that if you have a hormone positive cancer, then we want to give you drugs that will suppress your hormones. But we need our hormones for our brain health, our bone health, our heart health, our immune health, everything. And so if we suppress those hormones, then we may not be able to heal as quickly as we can. So to understand the role of hormones, we have to understand something called methylation. There's a genetic SNP that many, many people have. I would venture to say probably 50 to 70% of the population, where your hormones are not metabolized properly or methylated or broken down properly. So that could be a factor when it comes to stimulating breast cancer. So you have to find out if you do have an estrogen methylation problem. And if you do, then there's things that you can do to support that process. So your hormones don't cause cancer. Be aware of all the chemical hormones you may be exposing your body to, and understand if you have a problem with estrogen metabolism or methylation. And you do that by checking your estrogen methylation pathways. You can do that with a urine test, DNA test, blood test. And these are all things that your functional doctor or your health coach can help you with. Another thing we need to do to balance our energy is to balance our sleep. When we don't sleep properly, we create that insulin resistance, which can lead to inflammation. It affects our thyroid, it lowers our natural killer cells, and that can lead to cancer progression. I love this picture, right? When was the last time you really slept like a baby? But too many of us are stuck on these, right? We are stuck on the computer, we're watching TV, whatever we're doing late into the night, and that blue light will suppress your melatonin and ability to heal. So it's important to wear, blue light blocking glasses, which I normally have them on at my computer or at night. And so, just become aware of little things like that that can help you to sleep. And then according to the National Cancer Institute, the most important message for cancer patients and survivors is to avoid inactivity. So exercise is an extremely important part of balancing your energy. Moving on to essential number 4, healing the emotional wounds. Now, I think if I were to start over in this whole process, I would put heal your emotional wounds as essential number 1. That's how important it is, because I've seen women who've done it all, from literally traveling the globe, trying to find all kinds of different treatments, to taking all the supplements, to doing everything there was to do, the IVs, whatever. And if they did not address the emotional wounds and the stress in their life, their body would not respond as well. So we always encourage our clients to face the emotional cancers first, because we know that through psychoneuroimmunology research that our thoughts and our emotions will affect our DNA and will affect how our body functions and heals. This is an amazing study. This shows us that when women have group and community-based support and they learn to manage their stress, they have a 75% lower risk of dying from breast cancer if they do those two things. This was an 11-year study done on women with breast cancer. So how powerful are your thoughts, and how powerful is that community support when it comes to healing? And we know that the placebo effect is a way for your brain to tell your body what it needs to feel better. How is it that we can take a sugar pill and think that it's going to fix symptom ABC, and you take the pill, and guess what? 50% of the time, your body responds. It takes care of the problem. So this little pill must really work. But in reality, there was nothing in that pill. It was a placebo. And most of you are probably aware of the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. This is a must-read book, You Are the Placebo. And he's done countless years of research and scans that show us that your body has the ability to heal any type of dis-ease. And his story is amazing. He had a fractured spine after a serious injury on a bike. And he was told he would never walk again. He was told he needed surgery. And he said, nope, I'm going to figure out a way to heal my body. And he laid flat on his back for months, meditated, visualized his body healing. And guess what happened? His body did heal, even though they told him he would never walk again, never had surgery. And so that brings us to this quote: if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you are right. And it comes down to your belief system. You must have the conviction that your body has the ability to heal. And it also comes down to how you view your healing journey. Are you going to be bitter, or are you going to be better? And I love this book by Dr. Carl Simonton called Getting Well Again. He was a radiation oncologist back in the 1980s, way ahead of his time. And he noticed that the patients who had hope, who had a positive attitude, who saw their cancer diagnosis as an opportunity for them to improve their lives, guess what? They fared much better than those who felt like victims or who had no hope. And so really, he says cancer is a message of love. And I really love that, because it is so true. Because a diagnosis of cancer at first is very traumatic, but if you let it settle and you walk through the journey and you realize that this is a gift and it's an opportunity for you to change your life in a positive way, then it really can be a message of love. Here's another brief study. After learning meditation for 4 days, participants upregulated 3 specific genes to slow down cancer growth. So meditation, visualization, extremely powerful. EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping. Again, countless studies validating a simple tapping procedure that slows down the fight or flight response, that really weakens that amygdala, that little center in your brain, that reptilian brain that keeps you fight or flight. It really helps to calm that down, because your body cannot heal if it feels like it's being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right? You really have to calm that response down. This is another tool that I used in my second healing journey, something called Evox. And it's a way to analyze the stress in your voice. You speak a statement in this little microphone, and you put your hand on the cradle, and it analyzes the stress response in your voice. And then you listen to music, and frequencies get inputted into your hand, and it helps to relax that stress response and heal it. I had some amazing breakthroughs with Evox, and it's just one of many tools that you can look at to heal the emotional wounds. Essential number 5 is embrace biological dentistry. Excuse me, I'm going to put something in my mouth. For those of you who have silver fillings, you should know that they are 50% elemental mercury. Mercury is one of the most toxic elements on the planet. And mercury is also known as a metalloestrogen. It will mimic and stimulate estrogen in the body. There are many dentists now that are called smart dentists. They have trained under the safe mercury amalgam removal technique. And you can, find these dentists by looking at the internet, going to this international organization, and finding somebody in your area. It's very, very important that you clean your mouth, because that can cause a lot of dis-ease in the body. Root canals. Root canals are basically a dead organ in your body. It's no different than having a diseased appendix or a diseased gallbladder. No matter how aseptic they try to make it, there is always a pocket of anaerobic bacteria. Excuse me. That will.
You are trying to pack a weekend into an hour, and man, are we grateful. So thank you for talking so fast, giving us so much information.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. So there's always a pocket of anaerobic bacteria at the base of the root canal. And there's been over 42 different species of bacteria that have been associated with autoimmune disease, cardiovascular disease, and neurological diseases. Here's a thermometer that shows you the inflammation in the mouth. So that's a good way to get a clue as to what's happening in your mouth. And also getting a 3D beam bone scan of your mouth to see if there's any cavitations. A cavitation is not a cavity, but it's a hole in the bone. It literally is a bone infection. If you've had a tooth that's been extracted many years ago and it was never properly cleaned out, then that can cause infection in the bone. I'm going to show you an image. It's not very pleasant, but this is what a cavitation looks like. Here's the tooth. Here's the hole in the bone that literally those bacteria ate away at that bone. So imagine the impact that that's having on your immune system. That's why it's very important to work with a biological dentist. Now, your teeth are connected to all of your organs through the acupuncture meridian system. And I've seen time and time again when women have amalgams, root canals, cavitations on the breast meridians, which there's 4 teeth up here and there's that there's a direct correlation. In my particular case, I had a cavitation and an autoimmune issue up here on number 14 and down here on number 21 or 22, I think it was. And it's that same side where I had the tumors both times. So we see that 99% of the time there's a connection. Now, essential number 6 is to repair your body with therapeutic plants and herbs. And everything that I discuss in my book on my website is evidence-based. And there's over 700 references in this book leading back to published studies. A great place to look is pubmed.org. So there's no one-size-fits protocol for everybody. There's no cookie cutter. You always have to test and assess to see what works best for you. And there's simple things that you can do with basic food. For example, blueberries, with this phytonutrient, the pterostilbene, it's been shown to increase natural killer cells, slow down breast cancer stem cell growth, causes death in triple negative breast cancer. For those of you who may be doing radiation treatments, it can reverse malignant trend caused by the radiation. So something as simple as blueberries and blueberry concentrate. Flax seeds are potent. They are plant estrogens, they're phytoestrogens, but they help to lower the aggressive estrogens in your bloodstream. There was a study done at the University of Toronto where they fed women who were getting ready to have lumpectomies or mastectomies. They fed them a muffin that had 5 teaspoons of ground flaxseed, and they gave them that muffin every day for 30 days. And that muffin was probably made with white flour and sugar, but nonetheless, it had the ground flaxseed in them. And they found after 30 days that it lowered the cancer tumor markers anywhere from 30 to 73% just by introducing the ground flaxseed. So pretty potent little food we have there. Iodine is extremely important for every single cell in your body. When we're iodine deficient, we will get nodules and cysts, right? In our thyroid, in our breasts, our ovaries. It's very important for hormone production, and it is toxic to cancer cells. Now, women who are on thyroid medication, synthetic thyroid medication, are twice as likely to develop breast cancer because that medication is simply covering the symptom. It's not getting to the cause. Most of us are deficient in iodine, so it's very important for you to get tested for iodine deficiency and to supplement accordingly. The Japanese, in their diet alone, get on average 12.5 milligrams of iodine every day. So that gives you a clue as to where you should start, but always test, don't guess. Matcha green tea is 100 times more powerful than regular green tea. it has more EGCG in it than regular green tea. And 1 cup of matcha is equivalent to 12 cups of regular green tea. So drink your matcha every day, suppresses breast cancer cells, inhibits blood flow that feeds a tumor, and induces cancer cell death. Trace minerals like selenium, extremely important. Try to get at least 200 milligrams per day. Zinc, we all know how important zinc is for our immune function, but it also helps to decrease that blood flow to potential tumors and increase cancer death. Then we get into immune essentials. And again, I could spend a whole hour just on this particular subject of immune essentials, but a few highlights. Medicinal mushrooms, many studies on all kinds of mushrooms. The interesting thing, after all is said and done, they found that the plain old white button mushroom was the most effective against breast cancer. Interesting. I didn't know that. I learned that just a few months ago. What you're looking at here is a beautiful image of a macrophage. This is what one of your white blood cells looks like. This macrophage is literally putting out tentacles and gobbling up those bacteria. The sad thing is when cancer cells start producing this enzyme called nagalase, it literally puts those macrophages to sleep. They are stunned. They can't do anything. They're paralyzed. And so researchers have found, when you make sure that this macrophage activating factor is high in the body, and that keeps your vitamin D levels high, then those macrophages will come back to life and natural killer cells as well. You can take it orally, you can do injections, you can also do it dermally as well, now transdermally. Mistletoe, we've all heard of mistletoe, thousands of published studies. It's been around for 100 years, boosts survival rates, it alleviates the side effect of the conventional treatments, increases natural killer cells. This is one of the treatments that I did in my second healing journey. Liposomal vitamin C, for those of you who may not have access to vitamin C IVs, which are very important in the healing journey. Liposomal is very powerful. 1,000 milligrams of liposomal is a fatty-based vitamin C. It's absorbed much better, is equivalent to 6,000 of ascorbic acid. So make sure you get plenty of vitamin C. Again, hundreds of articles of research show how effective it is against cancer. And then vitamin D. Vitamin D is critical. It's not really a vitamin, it's a hormone that activates 100 genes. And it's very, very important to prevent breast cancer, but also to heal breast cancer. And ideally, you want to make sure that your levels are between 80 and 100 mg per ml, because that's where it really has a powerful effect on your immune system. And then lastly, targeted essentials. These are supplements and herbs that literally have been shown to kill cancer cells. And again, just touching on a few here because of time. But wormwood, you get artisan and artemisinin out of wormwood. You get fermented soy, halin, which has been around for decades. It turns on the p53 gene, which is a tumor suppressor gene. And most people with breast cancer that I've seen have a very weak p53 gene. Medical marijuana, we know that that's finally making more and more of a headway. This is a great website to go to, United Patients Group. They will offer consultations and help you to figure out what dosages would be best for your particular issue. High dose melatonin. Most people think of melatonin in terms of 3 or 5 milligrams. Many doctors around the globe are dosing as high as 180 milligrams a day, doing IV melatonin with great results on stage 4 cancers. Here's another herbal product. that has been shown to target cancer cells and to really undo the DNA damage. Another product, very high in alpha lipoic acid, and it increases the mitochondrial pathways, which we know cancer cells don't like that. And it's not cheap, it's very pricey, but it's very effective. Quercetin, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, supports healthy estrogen pathways. And then supportive therapies, things like hyperbaric oxygen. We know cancer cells don't like oxygen, right? They use sugar for fuel instead of oxygen. So if you force that oxygen into your body, it makes them very unhappy. Rather than doing high dose chemotherapy, there's something called IPT, insulin potentiating therapy, where they use only 10% of the normal chemo dose. And then photodynamic therapy, there's laser watches, there's lasers that are delivered through IV that can literally target cancer cells. And here's another dear friend in California. And she worked really hard. She's a horse whisperer, and she did extremely well on her healing journey. And so lastly, essential number 7, and I see that we're kind of running out of time. We're going to talk about ways to detect a breast. Run through these slides fairly quickly, but the average of 60% of breast cancers are detected by women themselves. They find the lump themselves. And if that's the case, then why don't more women check their breasts? Well, we've put a lot of emphasis on mammography, and many studies have shown that mammography did not reduce breast cancer mortality rate. And this 23-year study showed that self-detection, along with clinical exams, were more effective than machines. So touch was much more powerful than a machine. And we know that there's effects with radiation and compression when it comes to chronic mammography. Thermography reads the infrared heat coming off your body, and we've seen some images. Inflammatory breast cancer, not detected with mammograms. Beauty of thermography, there's no pain, no radiation, and it can alert your body to early stages of disease. But no matter what you choose, whether it's an MRI, a mammogram, a thermogram, always back it up with an ultrasound, because that will help you to get another picture window of your tissue. So ultimately, the best option for early lump detection is a proper breast exam, but we've never been taught. But the good news is, thanks to the MammaCare.org Foundation, they created a tool where doctors could learn how to more easily find lumps in women's breasts. And this training tool was then converted to this beautiful product called My Breast Friend, where women can learn how to find a lump 7 times smaller than without training. And whether you've had a mastectomy or lumpectomy, very important to check your breasts every single month. And there's blood tests that you can use to stay on top of your health, to see if you may be on the road to developing cancer. Inflammation markers like you see here, checking your thyroid, checking exposure, checking your vitamin D, working with the RGCC labs that are also known as the grease test, where they will check your cancer cells for chemosensitivity, as well as 50 different natural extracts. And this is a sample of the report where you see specific nutrients that are most effective against the cancer. So after all is said and done, healing with the 7 essentials really works. And these are some thermograms of before and after of some of the women that we had the privilege of working with. So cancer and then no cancer. And then here you see this person did not have cancer, but she was well on her way to potentially developing it, because you see all this blood flow starting to form, and much better after applying the 7 essential system. You see the before and the after, all the inflammation, how much better. This person had a mastectomy, lots of inflammation. And some women that we had the privilege of working with. This is Margot, 75 years young. This woman was actually pregnant with this little boy when we worked with her, and she did really well. Somebody from Georgia, Slovakia, Australia. And in the end, this is how we really encourage our community, because the healing journey is not easy, right? Just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. And that healing journey is just like that. You can be like the caterpillar that's in the cocoon, and it's dark and it's scary and you don't know what the next step is. But if you trust the laws of the universe and you trust your body's ability to heal and you have faith, then you will come out on the other side a much happier and healthier you. So if you'd like more information, you can find us at breastcancerconqueror.com or all over social media as well. Support at Breast Cancer Conqueror if you'd like to connect with us personally, if you have any questions. And then I'd like to offer section 2 of my book, Heal Breast Cancer Naturally. Just go to this link, breastcancerconqueror.com/free book, and we will send you some information.
The crowd will be standing up, going absolutely insanely wild.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. You know, I'm also a cancer consultant. I had to create this journey on my own. I know how disempowering the medical system can be, even though some of it's really important, especially when there's a life-threatening tumor that needs to be removed. But the information that you've provided empowers people where they live, in their home. You know, wherever they are, they can take your information and incorporate it into their life. And what happens with a cancer diagnosis, as we well know, is all of a sudden we're powerless. Our power is given externally. Mm-hmm. You have lowered the stress levels and helped the mental set to realize that we are powerful with the right information. And you've put it all in 1 or 2 places. We are so incredibly grateful. Well, and now I'm going to pepper you. Oh, thank you. Now I'm going to pepper you with some questions. Oh, I also wanted to emphasize trusting one's intuition. When I had the first episode of breast cancer, and cancer can be chronic, which is why when Dr. V was saying the tip of the iceberg, and she showed you the tumor is the symptom, but everything underneath is what the essentials addresses, we have to address the chaos because the body knows how to address cancer. Anyway, when I was getting the first episode of breast cancer, and I went for 5 days of radiation because it was a test trial, and frankly, I wouldn't do it again. They said no exercise and no antioxidants. I exercised 2 hours every day, and I had blueberries every day. Well, the information you just brought forth, and that was my intuition, was exercise brings in oxygen. Cancer cells don't like oxygen. Blueberries are powerful in helping us to keep away cancer. So trust one's intuition. I think that's another element. So now I'm going to pepper you with some questions very quickly. Men also have estrogen positive cancers. Mm-hmm. So your system isn't just about women. It's also about hormone-driven cancers like prostate and breast cancer for men. Is that not correct?
Absolutely. Over 400 men a year die of breast cancer. And I've worked with men with prostate cancer, colon cancer, and the same principles apply. Cancer is cancer.
Great. Okay, we're running a little over, and it is so worth it. Let's talk about stem cells versus the cancer being the symptom. Taking out the tumor doesn't relieve the cancer stem cells, which is why your system is so important. Do you want to address stem cells briefly?
Yes. So with your traditional doctor, he may look at your blood work, it may look fine. Even if you get a scan, they don't see anything because they've had surgery or done chemo, radiation, whatever. So they tell you are quote unquote cancer free, but in reality, they're not checking the circulating tumor cells and the breast cancer stem cells, either the baby cancer cells that are responsible for reoccurrence and metastasis. So the same principles apply. Whether you're addressing cancer itself or those circulating cells, blueberries, curcumin, high dose melatonin, exercise, all of this can affect those cells from never showing up again.
Thank you. Another point that you mentioned, and I want to be sure people register this, all estrogens are not harmful. We need our estrogens, our bone, our skin, our memory, our mental set. So the choice of what we do with a cancer diagnosis is not to shut them all down. It's to get them rebalanced, which the liver does a lot. And Dr. V mentioned that because the liver, please give us a couple of seconds on how the liver helps with the proper estrogen balance.
So the liver breaks down heavy metals and hormones in the phase 2 liver detoxification pathway and helps to secrete them out of the body. They're converted into metabolites that are non-aggressive. However, if your liver is congested, if you're constipated, if you have the MTHFR SNP, then you won't be breaking down those estrogens properly. So you've got to make sure that your liver's clean. And then, like I mentioned, there's ways to test for that to see if your hormones are out of balance or if you're not methylating properly.
Products like milk thistle to support the liver.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So there are products that can support the liver. Another thing you mentioned was sugar. Sugar is not just sugar. White flour can metabolize to sugar. So unfortunately, Dr. V was, again, giving us a weekend or a week in an hour. So it's important. Would you say if people looked at the net carbs, that would give an idea of the sensitivity, the insulin sensitivity and the sugar?
Yeah, that would help them. I mean, any grains, any carbohydrates, whether they're complex or simple carbohydrates, will eventually break down into glucose into your bloodstream. And so just be aware of minimizing your carbs to, keep it to a minimum. And that's difficult. I was at a point in my second healing journey where I was keeping my carbs down to 20 grams per day. Now, that's very difficult. That's not a lot of carbs, not a lot of food, because romaine lettuce can be high in carbs, believe it or not. Fruit, all these things. So, you have to really test and assess to see how your body's responding. And a simple little finger prick, on your fingers, like the diabetic testers. I mean, I did that for a long time during my second healing journey, just to make sure I was managing my blood sugar and I wasn't insulin resistant any longer.
Really important. So here's a simple one. You take the total carbs on the back of the package, you remove the dietary fiber, and one theory is that you also remove the sugar alcohol, and then you get to your net carbs. So a lot of the protein has very low net carbs. This will give you just a general idea of how to address the low carb intake, insulin, glucose that Dr. V was talking about. I have so many questions. Cancer is aberrant DNA, and we have to keep it. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, when you look at the metabolic approach of cancer, we know that it's not just the DNA, that it has a lot more to do with the mitochondria than it does the DNA.
Great clarification. Thank you. We, by the way, have in our cancer library top people like Dr. V. We have Dr. Thomas Seyfried, you can look up on the Commonwealth Club, who talked about cancer as a metabolic disease. Dr. V talked about Dr. Bruce Lipton. She knows the top people. We've had Dr. Bruce Lipton there talking about the epigenetics, which is what Dr. V addresses, because the epigenetics is the whole holistic approach to the body. We're not just one organism. I can't believe that I'm going to have to stop here because there are so many more questions. Dr. V, I know, the EMFs. Have you heard anything relative to shungite, the mineral shungite relative to EMFs?
I'm not.
This was really interesting. I was at a cancer conference. They did a test. They called on the phone. I'm holding the phone. I have another little thing on my phone. And my arm is fine. The phone rings. My arm goes down totally. This doctor gave me a piece of shungite. I held it with my phone. He called the phone. My arm was strong. That may be too much information for you all out there, but at least you have something to follow up in addition to what Dr. V gave you. Dr. V, this was absolutely extraordinary. I'm going to have to close the program. Everyone, please, Dr. V's, sign up for that. Do you have that? Well, that slide is back. When you see this again on the Commonwealth Club website, you'll see where you can get your free book, the free chapter. It was free dash book. You can go to her website. There's tremendous information there. When you sign up for that free book, you will then get her educational materials. So I know we went really fast. Take a deep breath because this should not be stressful. This should just be peaceful. And you have access to her information again and again on the Commonwealth Club. Please share it widely. Health is the best gift, and this program was totally free because of Dr. V and the Commonwealth Club. You have given such an incredible gift. The Commonwealth Club is a forum that is extraordinary, probably in the world. We have all kinds of different programs through health and medicine. We have a brain elasticity program coming up. We have adapted to the times, these crazy, crazy times. So we now have a lot of virtual programming, which you can find again and again. When you look on site for Dr. V's program, look up Dr. V, or else look up the title of the program. Because you're here, you already have the link to the program. You should be able to find Dr. V easily again. And if not, your website is breastcancerconqueror.com.
Correct.
And presumably you'll have this link up there, eventually as well. We have to thank our AV staff. Can you imagine when we had to close down in person? They just stepped right up, working practically 24/7 to give all of you the programming and all the different topics that we need. So please become members. It's one of the best gifts for about $100, a year's worth of learning. Give it to people as gifts. You're allowing people in their home, including the children, to learn from our programming. Thank you so very much for coming. We are grateful you're here. And Dr. V, you have saved lives and you have made such a difference in this world. Thank you so much for who you are and how much you care. Your heart precedes you. We are grateful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing my message of hope. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Adria.
You're welcome.